good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve. Welcome back to my channel, and this is part 2 of prepping, and it may even be certainly equal to the food part of this, but mind, body and spirit. Your body is actually your biggest survival tool that you have, and so keeping it fit and in good order is absolutely imperative. And it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter how fit or unfit you are, you can always try to improve your fitness, and very easily by walking. You don't necessarily have to go to a gym. You can buy some weights and do some simple weight training at home and that kind of stuff. And I'm actually speaking from a little bit of experience here. I'm not sort of lording it over anybody, saying that they should run out there and get exercise and get fit and so on and so forth, because 27 years as a barber has taken its toll. And although I've kept myself moderately fit, I decided to start doing some push-ups recently, and I'll tell you, it was absolutely embarrassing. The speed with which my face went down towards the ground was actually stunning, and the slowness of the speed with which I pushed myself up from that ground was unbelievable. Okay, so I am basically, now that I've gone to semi-retirement, I am taking that time to really push myself, do a lot more physical work, and to try and bring up that fitness level in myself. But good food is a part of that. Sleeping, getting enough sleep is very important. In today's world, many people are sleep deprived, and I would suggest very strongly that you turn off your cell phone at night time. Just a little sidebar on that, I think it's really hilarious with these people who complain about being woken up in the middle of the night by this Ontario-wide warning system that we now have on phones. And I'm thinking, well, there's a simple solution: just turn off your phone. My phone goes off at 8 p.m. in the evening. I don't want to receive any phone calls after that time. I'm usually busy with other things, and I don't need or want those wireless frequencies in my home. Same with my computer. I don't have any wireless, it is all hardwired. If you have a portable phone, don't leave the base station next to your bed. This will disturb your sleep patterns. This is energy being radiated from these antennas trying to get through the whole of your house, and when it's right next to your head, you are picking up these energies, and it is exciting your brain, and you'll be tossing and turning all night. But take care of your body. As I say, I've done 27 years in the barbershop. I can't tell you how many older men especially, the effect of not exercising when you get older is incredible. You think your youth is never going to come to an end, but I've seen too many cases of people shuffling out of the store because their hips are frozen up, their backs are frozen up, their legs are not strong enough to carry them, and this takes action prior to that happening, because once this degradation has started, it is very difficult to pull it back together. After the age of 55, you start to lose 1% of your muscle mass per year if you do not exercise. So that is a pretty staggering statistic. So that is the biggest part, I think, of survival, because if you are fit and ready to basically do a little bit of jogging, jump out of trouble, or this kind of stuff, you could be on vacation. We think of things happening at home, but you could be in some hotel somewhere where a fire breaks out and you have to maybe leap from balcony to balcony. Who knows what an emergency situation might call for, and you want your body to be a little bit prepared for that kind of thing. And also, as I said before, you may not be able to stay at home. You may have to bug out, and that is probably going to take quite a bit of stamina. And also, just in a general sense, if you're fit and healthy and you have a situation, if you have a surgery coming up, firstly, being the correct weight is going to help immensely but being fit and having a little stamina is going to speed your recovery and also make you more resilient to the the assault of the operation. I mean, let's face it, they're cutting you open. This is a pretty big assault on the body, and yeah, the fitter you are, the more resilient you're going to be to that kind of stuff. The mind. Wow, I could spend 24 hours and more just talking about issues relating to the mind. But let me give you 3 books that really had a big influence in my life. The first one is The 4 Agreements. Okay, this is by Don Miguel Ruiz, and of course the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make any assumptions, and always do your best. All of these books will lead to incredible introspection, and as Jordan Peterson often says, if you can just clean up your own life, and I include myself in that your own life, you are doing the world a huge favour by alleviating the responsibility of others of taking care of you. This is a classic. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. You have to forgive James Allen. It was written in 1896, and so just substitute person for man, but it's all about gratitude. And gratitude is huge. Being grateful for wherever you are. Actually, I mean, he says that you cannot leave the position that you're in until you treat it like it is the most wonderful thing in the whole world, and be grateful that you have what you have. And The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And if you see any videos, if you go onto YouTube, I think there are some videos of Eckhart Tolle. He's a very intriguing and interesting man. It's a very, very interesting concept about the power of being in the now all the time. And of course it is a lot easier to say than to do. But again, when you start thinking about being in the now, this is how you start thinking about how you are relating to the world, and how you are relating to the world in a spiritual sense. I am a pretty practical kind of person. My background is mechanical, but I have seen over the years so much evidence now that there is a collective consciousness, that there is some way in which we are all connected to the universe. How that happens, I have absolutely no idea, but I do believe that it does happen, and it's an important detail to attend to in our lives, to take that moment, even if there is nothing. It surely cannot hurt to reflect on oneself, on one's behaviour. I find, I don't know if you do this, but through my life, I remember something, and just shudder at the way I behaved, because, well, we all do things that we regret. And so what I do, because I can't actually rectify that situation, is I just ask for forgiveness from the person that I may have offended, or the behaviour, regardless of how they took it. It's my attachment to that memory that's important. And so part of asking for forgiveness is also forgiving oneself, because you really can't go back and change anything that we've done in our past. That's just the way it is. We have to live with that memory. But the way I try and take the energy out of that memory is to simply ask for forgiveness, and remind myself that I was just a complete idiot at that time, and that hopefully I have grown and moved on from there. And you will find that cleaning up these little issues, shall we say, I mean, they seem mundane. I mean, I almost feel, a bit foolish talking about them, but, they really are the building blocks of much bigger issues if you allow them to go unnoticed and untended. And also doing that, it's accepting responsibility for my behavior. Accepting responsibility and acknowledging. And that, I believe, is also important for catharsism of things that you can't change. And we do, I've spent a lifetime working with people, dealing with people, and this is a big issue with many people. I was talking to a meditation teacher once, and he used to teach meditation to corporate boards by contract. There was a lot of call for that, and he said, the biggest thing that he found that people were living with was regret. Regret for opportunities missed, things that they've said, arguments that they had, things that they hadn't apologized for, and they wish they could go back and do so. And these are people, these are high flyers, okay? These are highly educated, powerful business people who are being troubled by these minor issues. And as I say, I believe that you can release the energy, the negative energy from this stuff, just simply by acknowledging, taking responsibility, and asking for forgiveness. Now, I don't know whether this is paving a way for me in heaven, but regardless, I believe that it has an effect. A great way to clear the mind and just slow everything down for a little while is to meditate. I meditate on a regular basis, and I find that meditating just seems to keep me centered. I'll go out in the bush and meditate, and boy oh boy, when you're in those pines or the cedars and you're at minimum Wi-Fi exposure, boy oh boy, the clarity is unbelievable. And that clarity, you bring back a little bit of that into your everyday life. Okay, so I've just noticed how dark it is out here in the greenhouse. It's getting on for 9 o'clock, so I am going to just wrap this up and take this inside and continue from my office. Well, that's better. Welcome back. So where were we? Oh, the mind. The mind is a most interesting place, and it can be your best friend or your worst enemy. The mind can conjure up such things, and in confusion it can send you into turmoil, and this is called cognitive dissonance. A situation that you might all be familiar with is, say for example, you're waiting for someone to show up, someone who you care very much about, and they're very late, or you get a call from the hospital asking you to come down. All of a sudden your whole world goes into a kind of a tailspin. It's a really unbelievable, it's surreal what happens. And in those moments, your mind can produce any number of scenarios. Anything from car crashes to kidnaps to infidelity. Oh my God, and like I say, if you've waited for someone that you love to show up and they're late, very late, it's amazing what will go through the mind, and this can be very defeating. If you cannot distract yourself and sort of step back a little bit. Another thing that can happen within your mind, Jung called it a cascade event, and this is that you get triggered by something. Maybe you're in a discussion and somebody says something offhand to you, and it triggers a memory, and all of a sudden it escalates out of all proportion, and this of course is triggering all kinds of other memories and events in your mind, and it has a sort of cascading effect. And if you're not careful, this can absolutely run away with you. And of course, to aid all of that, I don't want to get too tedious here, but there is a little gland in your head called the hypothalamus, and that hypothalamus translates thoughts into feelings and sensations through neural peptides that it courses through your bloodstream very quickly. When you have a thought or a desire or a fear, it will create the correct neuropeptide to give you the corresponding sensation. And of course you have to be very careful that you don't set up a mind loop, that I call them, where you think that you should be concerned or afraid. So you feel afraid. You get the hypothalamus creates the afraid neuropeptides. You get the feeling of fear, and this reinforces your thought of fear. And so it goes round in a circle, each thought and neuropeptide reconfirming each other. And I'm sure this happens quite often, especially as most of us are not aware of this. We just have the thought and the sensation, and it's not until you are aware of how complex the mind is that you can begin to consider the idea of stepping back. So for example, if I get that cascading situation, maybe some small thing has gone wrong in my life, maybe I've had a little disagreement with somebody, and all of a sudden that little disagreement can make me feel as if my whole world is coming to an end. And what I do now is I'll take an inventory, and I actually literally physically go through, the home is okay, my bills are paid, work is going just fine, I've got no disagreements with anybody else, there's just this one little situation, and I do that to bring it back into context, to stop that runaway sensation going on in my head. So there are all of these things that if you don't take the time to meditate, to try and become introspective. Another great book which I missed out, I'm painting my living room, so all the books are down, but the 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I read that book. It is absolutely brilliant. It is well researched, and it is very, very easy to read. And it really is about setting out a path to finding yourself and cleaning up your own mental act. And I don't think there is anybody on this planet who really shouldn't address some of those things that are going on that actually stop us from functioning, to our fullest in life, because we're avoiding certain situations. We might avoid certain people because a certain topic of conversation might come up, that kind of stuff. So there are many things that can interfere with clear thinking. And I think one of the biggest is, of course, lying to ourselves. Now, when you lie to yourself, you pathologize the mind. Okay, when you pretend that something is what it isn't. Say you're in a bad relationship and you're pretending that it isn't a bad relationship and you won't face it. What that does is it upsets your moral compass, and I guess say you accept some kind of horrible act. And of course this could be, say your government gets involved in a heinous act, like overseas violence, this kind of stuff. Or some of the things that we've seen with the Yellow Vest protests and that kind of stuff. Horrible, horrible things. And if you accept that and rationalize it, you are pathologizing your mind, and this will spin your moral compass right off course, because once you start to rationalize that kind of behavior, you upset the entire balance of your mind. And this goes from things big and small, or that we paper over or pretend just don't exist and accept them or rationalize them. We are pathologizing our mind, and although maybe one or two small incidents might not have any deep or lasting effect, I know many situations, especially in relationships, where things have been going on for an awful long time. And as they say, if you walk 40 miles into the bush, guess what? You've got to walk 40 miles back out of the bush. So it is definitely worth addressing mental hygiene. And I'm going to actually link a video below. I just watched this the other day by Jordan Peterson, and it is called The Painful Truth. And it is about living in truth and how difficult that can be sometimes. And I think in today's world, and because this is a prepping video, prepping your mind as well as your body and your spirit to stay centered and to stay real and you when all of this stuff starts going off, because I think you're going to see things around you, people around you behave in ways in which they would not behave under normal circumstances. And I think we can see the edge of this with the polarization, the vitriol, the kind of violence we're seeing on our television sets, the kind of angst that is coming out between particular groups. It really is very, very difficult to watch, because for a long, long time we have been pretty peaceful. I know there's been wars overseas and so on and so forth, but in the Western world, on the street, we've been getting along pretty well together, and society has been in general progressing, if not slowly, at least in the right direction. And to see all of this upset, this is going to be difficult to watch. And so, as I say, good mental hygiene is really important. To find a spiritual place where you can basically just shut down all of that kind of stuff and just center yourself. It doesn't have to be a garden. It can be a place that you love to be. Go for a walk, go for a hike. This is part of preparing your body. Learn to be in a little bit of wilderness, and go meditate whilst you're out there. Enjoy the solitude, enjoy the peace, and use it as a mini vacation. And I think that's one thing that we can all do. And of course, James Corbett just came out with a piece about the information overload is part of the game plan. And we are literally being bombarded. I was just thinking the other day how quickly the news cycle goes past now. You know, it's not 2 or 3 days and you just don't see stuff again. Unless it's a court case or something really, really big. Things are coming and going at such a rate, it is virtually impossible to keep up. And again, this gives you a feeling of being left behind, left out. You have to remember that balance is extremely important to human beings. We like things in order. That's why libraries and books are all ordered. We like to have things neat and tidy in our homes, by the best part. We plant our garden in rows. We have beds orderly arranged. We like music to resolve on a major note. We do not like disorder and chaos. And it looks like we're on the fringes of disorder and chaos, not just with society, but with the financial system, with the weather systems, with the food systems. And our society depends on a lot of very small but important connections being made at the right time to function. And so good mental hygiene will help you weather some of the changes that I think are bound to come upon us sooner rather than later. So please do try to meditate where you can. Whatever position you are, try and increase yourself on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need to establish that, and this is all like a ladder. When you have a defeat, when you get knocked back a little bit, always find that square to stand on where you're stable, and then start branching out from there until you build a bigger square, and then branch out from there. But always recoup when things go wrong, when things go bad. Analyze what happened, figure out a solution, move on. Get yourself down to the lowest common denominator where you can stand stably. So for example, find a job. You lose your job, find a job, any job. Get yourself into a bedsit apartment. Once you've established that, been at that job for a few weeks, start looking for another job, a better job with better pay. Now that you can relax a little bit because the wolf is away from the door, and so on and so forth. And do not be frightened to go back to square one if things have gone wrong. This is no shame. It's how we deal with stuff. That's what strengthens the mind and strengthens the body and the spirit, is our attitude and how we deal with things when they go wrong. When things go right, it's great to deal with those kind of things. I enjoy things when they go right, but the test of your character will be how you deal with things when things start going wrong. And can you pull your socks up? Can you pick yourself up by your breeches and move on and keep your head whilst all around are losing theirs? So anyway, I'm sorry this has been a bit of a long video, but there was a lot to say, and I think this is a timely moment to think very much about mental, spiritual and bodily health, and taking care of some of those little things, any dentistry, so on and so forth, that's outstanding. Be ready to go be ready to go. And if we don't go, if it all stays together, you know, if we keep bumbling along as we have done, you know what, it's not going to hurt either. It will only help you enjoy your life on this planet even more. Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we will talk very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.